It is Friday, August 26th, and my name is Bill McCamley. I'm a state representative from Las Cruces and Mesilla with your legislative update for the day. Spent the last couple of days at the Water and Natural Resources Committee meetings. We met on Thursday in Clovis and this morning in Tucumcari. And one of the big topics that came up was water conservation and funding for infrastructure. So the mayor of Clovis actually spoke, and he talked continually about conservation and efficiency and how they use their resources to the most efficient way possible. Now, they get their water over there on the east side of the state from an underground water storage tank, basically, called the Ogallala Aquifer. And this is a aquifer that is shared between many of the states in the Midwest. And the water levels have been dropping like crazy recently. And he talked about how, look, this is a problem, and they've got to recognize it. And we've got to start treating water as a resource that is limited. They can't just keep mining. And you've got to look at things like water credits, different ways of banking, just finding ways of incentivizing people to use water more efficiently. And it was interesting because Clovis is a pretty Republican area where people like me would normally think, hey, look, they're going to tend to try to want to take a more conservative stance on this. But when the water starts going, everyone starts looking at efficiency, and I think that's really important. We also heard from the New Mexico Finance Authority, where they talked about different infrastructure plans that they have using loans. So they have all this money out there, and they're willing to loan it out at 0%, but not a lot of people are applying for these loans because we also have grants here in New Mexico. Now, grants you get for free, you don't have to pay them back. The problem is a lot of times the grants are too small to get anything done. And we rely on oil and gas prices for our grants. And as we all know, those prices are really low right now. And if we don't have the money to give those grants out, we've got to find a new system, a new paradigm for how we fund water infrastructure projects. We also heard from the Acequia Foundation today. In the north part of the state, there's a lot of very, very old organizations that date back to Spanish colonial times. And they do irrigation up there, mostly of small farms and ranches. And I said, hey, look, why aren't you borrowing any money? And they said, well, we're small. A lot of times our farmers don't want to pay it back, and the paperwork's just too crazy. So we've got to look at better ways of organizing our loans and say, hey, look, if you're going to get grant money, you've also got to apply for loans as well. Or maybe we have to find a better way of using that money, because if no one's borrowing it and sitting there in a bank, it's kind of useless. I also wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about a situation that happened in Albuquerque a couple of days ago. There was a little girl up there that was really abused and killed by her family members. And this is not a good day to be a public official, because it's our responsibility. We take on the responsibility for saying we're going to try to work on a community that does better. And when you hear about that kind of situation, it's really hard. And you have to feel for the community. You have to feel for the other family members. You got to get justice for what happened there. But there's bigger issues here. Where were Child Protective Services? Where were the government resources that are needed to be around to make sure that things like this don't happen? And while those types of resources don't guarantee that these things don't happen, we have to start saying, okay, this is important. And we're going to fund people and social workers that are going to have the resources and capacity to take care of these families. And I hope that we can all learn from this and do what we can to make our communities better through better funding of these types of resources and social services. That's really important. These are the types of days when you look at stuff like that, or you look at these really complicated water issues, where it makes it a little frustrating to be in public office. These big problems, and we've got to find ways of solving them. But you just take them one day at a time, kind of try to chuck away at each problem a little bit at a time. So anyways, as always, if you have questions, comments, or concerns on these or any of the issues, I'd really appreciate hearing from you. Thanks, everyone. Hope you all have a great weekend. Bye.